Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, council. I'm going to do some introductions because this is our first council meeting with a streaming video. So we have CEO Mitch Duval. Mitch, if you want to say hi.
Morning.
We have Councillor Janine Boulanger.
Good morning.
We have Councillor Curtis Clayton.
Hello, everybody. Councillor Clayton here.
We have Councillor Ron Mamchuk.
Good morning, everyone.
We have Councillor Shane Pelletier.
Good morning, everybody.
We have Assistant CEO Dominic Lemoine in the background doing the recording and administration of the recording. She's not saying hi, but she's there. So we will start with the agenda. We will go to one meeting called to order. Do I have a mover?
Janine Boulanger moves.
Janine moves it, second. Ron seconds it. Okay, I will call for the vote. So just so everyone's aware, the way we're voting now is through our AllNet system. We won't be doing it on video, so it'll be done through the AllNet. We'll cast our votes separately and privately, and then the CEO will let us know if it has been approved or defeated. So cast our vote now.
So that go to AllNet. Go. Geez. So, I get out of here. Hit this. Voting.
I'm waiting for the vote for Councillor Boulanger to come in.
It's sent. I sent it already. And I don't have an option to do it again, so
And your vote was?
yes.
Okay. Having 5 yeses, that vote is carried.
Thank you very much. And just also information for the public, you have to keep in mind, this is our first time. We have terrible internet as well in some regions, so there's a little bit of a delay, so I apologize. Moving on, we'll go to 2, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Clayton moves.
Seconded
Councillor
by
Pelletier, second.
Mr. Pelletier seconds. Okay, is there any additions, edits? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Please cast your vote now online.
That motion is carried 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Okay, we'll move on to 3, adoption of the minutes. Do I have a mover?
Ron
Janine
Mamchuk.
Boulanger.
Ron moves, Janine seconds. Okay, I will take it over to you, Mr. CEO.
Okay, the minutes were from the last meeting on March 18th, which was a regular meeting. At that meeting, there were about 5 public hearings. Those were all postponed, and we have reshuffled them into the queue for the April 22nd council meeting coming up. Most of the items on the agenda that evening were housekeeping items, but there was also one that council allowed temporary signs for the Grand Point area to go up.
That's everything. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any questions or comments or additions from council?
Not here.
None.
Fine with me.
Okay, I will get you to go to item number 3, and I will call for the vote. Please vote online now.
That vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to 4, committee reports and minutes. Do I have a mover?
Councillor
Ron
Pelletier.
Mamchuk.
Councillor Pelletier moves, and then I heard Councillor Mamchuk second it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council all has a copy of the reports given mostly by the mayor. One omission on the resolution for the mayor is that the report from the Red River Floodway Committee was not added on there, so I will add it on afterwards. But other than that, the reports are there for council to review.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Yes, I had a hard time with that communication. My phone wasn't working, so I appreciate Councillor Boulanger and the CEO for being on that call. And I appreciate you, Mr. CEO, for adding the reports later. Any questions or comments?
No, looks good.
None here.
Okay, I will get you to cast your vote online. I'll call for the question now. It's open.
That vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to 5.1, accounts paid to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Boulanger,
Councillor Janine Boulanger moves it, and seconded by Councillor Clayton. I believe I heard you.
Yes, correct.
You. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
Councillor Boulanger and Councillor Clayton. For this batch, 13701, $1,484, mostly miscellaneous recreation invoices that have come forward. Still working in the background, even though COVID is here, just in case that we do start doing some summer programming.
Any questions or comments from council?
Fine on this
No.
end.
None here.
Okay, then I will get you to cast your vote. It doesn't look like the vote's open though, unless to refresh, but council, if you can cast your vote, please do so online.
It's not ready for voting.
You'll have to refresh your screen.
Thank you.
F5.
Refresh.
Thank you.
I believe we have a minor technical issue with Councillor Mamchuk, so I will call the vote at 4-0 as being carried.
Okay, ho. Here we go. Sorry, Mr. CEO.
Okay. 5-0, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the vote has been called. We will move on to 5.2, accounts not paid to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Clayton moves.
Councillor Clayton moves, and I heard Councillor Mamchuk second it.
Yes.
Thank you.
For the accounts not paid to be approved, the batch 13707 for the amount of 546,000. Quite a big bill. However, there's a couple big invoices in there. There's a water services board check that was cut for 301,000. That's for our ongoing well mechanism upgrades, the reservoir treatment plant expansion, and as well as the pipeline twinning. So those projects are moving along quite well. As well, there is a Park West invoice for 131,000 related to the St. Adolphe daycare for holdbacks, and 30,000 for a Progress 10 payment. There is also $14,000 to be reimbursed to the TC Energy Group in Ile des Chênes for the first quarter of their expenditures. Any questions regarding other matters from council, please?
no, questions asked and answered.
Thank you. Anything else?
Not here. Thank you.
Not here.
Not
Okay,
here.
I will call for the vote, if we can all vote online now.
Should be there. That is carried 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. CEO. We'll move on to 5.2.1, council indemnities. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Belanger.
Ron Manchuk?
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Mamchuk. Mover was Councillor Belanger. Any questions, comments?
Basically, with the month of March and COVID entering, there has been some handicapping going on here just because of the situation we're in. I really do appreciate council indicating on their indemnity reports how they are interacting for their committee meetings, whether that be at Skype or GoTo meetings or video conferencing. That is very good and very transparent. So thank you to you folks.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say the same thing, Mr. CEO. Thank you for that. I think it's also important that we show how we're hosting our meeting, because after this is done, potentially there will be more opportunities for some fiber optics initiatives, because we all are doing conference calls and they're not always at the best internet capability. So I do appreciate council for writing that down too. Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions from council?
Not here.
Okay, I will call for the vote online again, if we could do that right now.
The vote is carried 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 5.3, payroll to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Clayton?
Pelletier.
Councillor Clayton moves it and seconded by Councillor Pelletier, I believe.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
We have two payrolls to be approved. Payroll 6, which is from March 1st to March 14th. Appears that there's been some overtime there. I think likely spring thaws may have kicked in at that point in time, as well for the payroll number 7, which is March 15th to the 28th. Again, some overtime there, but mostly all Public Works related and approved by Public Works.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from council?
No questions here.
No, it looks good.
Okay, seeing none, I will call for the question online. If we could cast our vote now.
That motion is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 6.1.1, cost sharing RCMP satellite office services, town of Niverville. Do I have a mover?
Ron
Councillor
Manchuk?
Belanger.
Councillor Mamchuk moves it, and I heard Councillor Belanger second it.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
Council has the letter from the town of Niverville whereby they have a satellite office that was set up. And apparently there has been, for the month of February, quite a few people from the Armor Reach Out stopping in to deal with the RCMP matters in Niverville instead of going to the police station in St. Pierre. So the town of Niverville figured that I think it was 12 out of 13 or 13 out of the 14 clients that were addressed in the month of February. About $800 and some of that would have been related back to the Armor Reach Out. They are looking to see if we are interested in cost sharing on such a program.
Yeah, I'm just reading it right now. I actually see it has the number. Does anyone in council see the exact number? 14 of 50. I don't see it, but it's something I think that maybe council should discuss at the next planning meeting. I think we need a little bit more information, understandings. What is our what is our agreement with St. Pierre Joli? What kind of RCMP satellite offices opportunities may there be in Richshot if we're having to pay for one anyway outside of the municipality? I think it's questions that we need to continue to figure out before we can actually pass any vote. So I would like to table this discussion until our next planning meeting and then bring it back to council once we have more information. If the council's in favor.
I agree with the mayor on this one. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I do as well.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so then we will table this. So I don't know how that works on your end, Mr. CEO, for the vote.
I've just put it up there. I have it as tabled.
Tabled, thank you. Okay, then we will move on to 6.1.2, closures of municipal playgrounds. Do I have a mover?
Yes, Ron
Councilor
Manchuk.
Mamchuk, seconded by
Councillor Clayton.
Councilor Clayton. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
The epidemic or the pandemic that we are dealing with COVID-19, we've been trying to be as proactive and reactive as possible to the surrounding areas. The city of Winnipeg had closed their city park playgrounds, and now I believe there's a public health order on that as well. So we are just following suit, and I just want council to be aware of this and that social distancing is still very important, but because of the playgrounds and the nature of the kids, COVID-19 can remain on those structures for a certain time period. So our recommendation to stop the spread is to close them down.
Any comments or questions from council?
no,
Not here.
I'm just going to ask a question maybe for public knowledge and we can educate ourselves as well. Mr. CEO, what measures can we take while closing? What if we see residents or people playing? Is there a number to call, or is there information that we should be sending out on that?
We have already reached out a few times to our ratepayers, either through the website or the Connect system. In due respect, your mayorship, social distancing should be practiced at this point in time. And if somebody does see people not practicing this at this time, is to contact public health authorities. They have agents out there that will deal with these situations.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
And the link is either on our website and or on the Manitoba website under COVID-19.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions before I call for the vote? Seeing none, I will call. Thank you. I will call for the vote online right now. Please go ahead.
I don't have voting opportunities. For
Me
this
neither
one.
yet.
Refresh your screens, please.
I have been,
Yeah, I logged in and out again. Same thing.
nothing.
Okay, let me exit here. Oh, hang on. Sorry, my bad. Now you should be able to vote.
Still not getting anything, but I'll refresh one more time.
Wrong one, Mitch. You picked 613.
I can't get into it.
Yep, hang on. There we go.
Refresh.
I appreciate the public's patience in watching this video for the first time.
Like reality TV.
Where are we here? Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for your understanding and patience. The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 6.1.3, St. Adolphe Nursery School Lease Agreement. Do I have a mover?
Ron
Councillor-
Manchuk.
Counselor Mamchuk moves it and seconded by Counselor Clayton, I believe.
Correct.
Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
I will. Okay. In regards to the lease agreement, the building at 372 Main Street is 99.9% completed. They have started to move some stuff over into the building. However, before they start operating, I would like to have a lease agreement in place. Therefore, we know where we stand with the rules and operations of the space. So this has been in the works for about 6 to 8 months between lawyers, the board, the daycare board, and myself. And I think we finally come to a reasonable agreement that works for all parties. If council takes a look at the agreement, it can be broken down into a few different categories, and I'll go through these very quickly. Under number 2, the use of premise. The use of premise is basically that common shared space area, and there's a map at the back to show that what space we are talking about. So if the RM wishes to use that space, or if the nursery desires to use that space off hours for whatever celebration or events may happening in the RM, clause number 2 deals with that. So basically, if the RM is doing the rental, the RM will collect the rental, but are also responsible for any damages due to that rental. Vice versa for the daycare, if they rent it out, they're responsible. As we go further, number 3 basically states that this is for a 20-year term because of the 20-year $1 million surplus agreement that the municipal board has in place. So that fixed rent, which is number 4, will then be broken down to $59,690 per year by way of 12 equal payments per year. So for the 20 years, that payment stays consistent. When we look at the clause number 5, the operational costs, that's where things get a little tricky, whereby we're starting the first couple of years at $18,750 a year. That will be broken down into 12 monthly payments. So after the year 2021, for 22, we will be looking at recalculating the numbers to come up with a more proper number. Then that number should be good for 4 years, and after every 4 years, you do that same reevaluation process. Okay. After that, number 7 deals with what the nursery school is responsible for, so they will pay for their phone, the fax line, the internet expenses. Any non-capital repairs will be their responsibilities. So like light bulbs, dents in the walls, whatever the case may be, that's up to them. They will also be cleaning the premises and clearing the snow and ice from the doorway and sidewalks that lead into the premise. So they'll be pushing that off to the side, and then the municipality will be coming around with the likely backhoe to scrape that away. The municipality will be responsible for, in number 8, capital expenses, such as roof repairs, structural, anything of nature, quantities out there. If the nursery in number 9, and Councillor Boulanger talked to us about that yesterday, if the nursery wishes to carry out any renovations, they may or may not need a building permit, but they will still require our blessings in order to do those renovations. And I think that's about it. The other one is that on clause number 18, this agreement is to be reviewed every 5 years. So council is not tied in totally for 20 years. So after 5 years, we go back to the drawing board, we look at the finances, we look at their operations and see if it's working properly or how can we make it work better. And that's at that point that we would be able to do that. I think that's all I have to say on that. So if you have any questions for me, please fire away.
I'll open up for questions now. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Go ahead, council, if you have any questions, comments, additions, anything.
This is Councillor Mamchuk. I know with the coronavirus, I guess there's no specific date for opening and even taking a minimum of 16 children as per provincial government guidelines. Did we get any update on that, whether they are going to take the 16 or we're just going to leave it until we get till this virus is gone and done with?
I have not heard anything from the province. I haven't talked to the folks at the daycare center either. I know that they were getting ready during the spring break to start moving stuff over, and if there's a silver light around all of this is that they have extra time to move stuff in. However, that does not help the parents and it does not help the financial situation of the daycare. So, so no, there's no target goal at this point. Everything will depend on the pandemic and how quickly we could resume back to normal. I believe that once we do return to some normal, whatever that is, I believe the daycare plans are to slowly start occupying the building, not at 113 as full capacity, but to have a migration to be able to get to that 113. And I think as far as administration goes, I'd like to propose to council that a similar rental agreement come into play regarding possession and transition.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Did we get our funds from the government or that's still pending?
I am currently working with the government on this matter. We have $560,000 to collect. We do have 10 or 11 bills from Park West that needs to be submitted to them amongst other documentation required. I was hoping to try to get that done during the last week of March. Unfortunately, with what's going on, that's been delayed, but it is on my radar to try to do by the end of the middle of September, middle of April.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. CEO.
Any other questions from council?
I just would like you to clarify the lease again, Mitch. So of course, we don't expect them to start paying the lease if they're not in there yet. But if you said that they're going to start gradually, so is it like a portion of the lease per month that they're going to only have to pay, or how is that exactly going to work?
How I foresee it, if let's say if they have 23 kids in there, it would be 23 of 113. So you take out that, do that percentage, apply it to the rent portion. So that would be number 4 in the document is the rent. Number 5, whether you have 23 kids or 113 kids, I think that portion needs to be applied at 100%, just because you are paying, you are using the full hydro, you are using the full water. I think that's should be agreeable by both parties.
So in a sense, then they won't be paying $59,000 the first year. Is that how I understand it?
Well, not for the first year, that's for sure, because we are already April 1st and they're
Yeah.
not in there now. So whenever they do, let's make an assumption that COVID and the pandemic is over. They will start maybe in September. At that point, hopefully they will have all their kids lined up and we could start charging them full starting in September 1st. Irregardless, the debt of $1 million is still there they will likely just have to either accrue a little bit more interest or extend their payments at the end of the day.
Yeah.
to-
Okay.
to make
I
it
just don't
work.
see that in the, I just don't see that in the agreement written that way, but I guess that, is that necessary?
No, we were actually hoping for a January 1st possession when this was all drafted.
Okay.
But I think we just have to start with the date that they go in.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Yeah, I just have a quick one here. With respect to the monthly leaseholder payments, if something unfortunate happens and the daycare isn't able to make a payment, do we forgive those payments, or what would our recourse be with respect to that? Or is that something that's not even really a part of the leaseholder agreement?
That's a very tough question, and my quick answer would be that I never would forgive any payments owed to the municipality, but I would work with the entity into either prolonging the payment and still charging interest on the outstanding debt.
Okay.
At some point in time, that 1 million needs to be repaid. It will get repaid, whether it's over 20 years or 21 years. That to me is the key.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from council?
I just want to thank staff and everybody for working on this one. A lot of work went into this to get this facility up and running for the town of St. Adolphe. They've done an awesome job at it.
Very well said. Thank you, Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you, Councillor Pelletier.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I'll call for the vote. If we could do that online, starting now, please.
Thank you, everybody. The vote is 5-0 carried.
Thank you. Moving on, we have some received as information, but we'll move on to number 9, adjournment. Do I have a mover?
Ron Mamchuk.
Mr. Mamchuk moves it, seconded by
Councillor Clay.
Boulanger.
Councillor Boulanger. Thank you, seconds it. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay, we'll call for the vote now, if we could go do that, although I don't see it open.
Refresh your screens, please.
You.
I'm getting there. Come on. I didn't scroll up far enough.
There we go. 5 votes to 0 to not adjourn the meeting. No, I'm kidding. To adjourn the meeting.
Okay, thank you. We will adjourn at 9:49 a.m. Thank you everyone for coming, and Councillor Pelletier, I appreciate that there's palm trees in your backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone.
And
Can we
record.
stop the recording and still